everybody. Welcome back to the New Variety Art Show. I'm your host, Brad Zinn, and we're glad that you're tuned in. We hope that you're watching, and please let us know that you're watching, because that's what public access television is all about. We want you to tune in and let us know you're watching. And the New Variety Art Show is a show about variety arts performers. Clowns, mimes, jugglers, magicians, hypnotists, psychics, you name it. We're going to have all kinds of guests on. We're going to find out what they do, how they do it, why they do it, when they got started. And the next time you see a variety arts performer in person, we hope that you'll appreciate what they do just a little bit more. And now I want to say hello to our musical director, Mr. Bill Swayze.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Nice to see you.
You're still, you're adding more dance classes out of ASU, I understand.
That's right, I'm in demand.
They've really upped your schedule. Yeah.
They're dancing a lot, too.
Are they?
Really good.
Well,
yeah.
Good. That's great. And did you have a good Halloween? I never did get to ask you about that.
Well, yeah, it's scary.
I understand you went as Casper the Friendly Ghost. Is that right?
That's
I
right.
went as Harry Blackstone Jr. What a frightening thought. You play golf at all, Bill?
Well, I'll tell you, not with those color balls.
Oh, well, these are the only color I can use because I can't find them after I hit them. I can never watch golf on TV because they're gone. I can't see them. I don't know how those cameramen do it. That kind of leads up to one of the guests that we're going to have today, because we're recently out playing a round of golf with him.
I see.
And I'm very excited about him being here today because we've been friends for years, and I know you know him too. And as far as I'm concerned, he's, well, I don't know if you noticed the pin I was wearing today.
I thought those were something else, but now I notice they're playing cards.
They're playing cards.
4 aces.
That's correct. And I wore those especially today because of our guest, because he is just aces with me.
Very good.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is Mr. Lynn Roberts, and it's somebody that you probably are going to recognize, and we're going to show you a little clip where you may have seen him very recently. Watch the TV. Here we go.
You know, over in Scotland, we love our bagpipes. But of course, when you come over here to the States, we got to do it a little more Americanized. So here goes.
It's time to choose this week's funniest or most unusual people. The producers have selected 3 finalists.
Dixie on the flute while I hum yakadoo and sing.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. It's a gentleman that you probably recognize from local television and national television. He's been on a lot of shows all across the country, and we've been friends for a number of years and done a number of shows together, and he is incredibly talented and very funny. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to my good friend, Mr. Lynn Roberts.
Well, here we are again.
That's right. Do you like this? Do you like the set, Lynn?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, well, we're glad that you're here and glad you were able to join us. And that first clip that we saw was from America's
Funniest People.
That's right. Tell us a little bit about your experience of being on America's, because I'm sure some of the viewers out there have thought, gee, I wish I could be on that show. What's it like?
Well,
shut up,
you
Bill.
probably can.
Learn to play another instrument. We'll get you on.
Yes, they were holding auditions in Phoenix, and so I went over and I did that spot for them that you saw. And then about 3 weeks later, they called and they says, we have plane tickets for you to fly over here tomorrow morning. And
gee, a lot of notice there.
And be there when they air the spot. And then I just recently cut 3 more spots for them that hopefully they'll be using sometime this fall.
Very good. Well, Lynn, we saw just a little piece in the clip there of you playing some different musical instruments. And you play unusual and unique musical instruments. How did you learn to play so many different instruments? Most people have trouble playing one, let alone 15 or 20.
Well, I come from a musical family. My mother and father both.
You're not related to the Osmonds, right?
No,
okay.
And my mother and father both play, and so I got started as a kid playing piano and then saxophone and clarinet, and then I majored in music at the University of Nebraska, and learned to play several more instruments there, and then I was on the road with some wonderful bands, Wayne King, Ted Weems. I sort of got in on the tail end of the big band era.
I see. Well, so you're able to play like 2 saxophones at the same time and 2 trumpets at the same time. Is that because you have double-jointed lips? Is there a secret there?
No, but I have a lot of fun with that because every once in a while someone who's really into psychology comes up and they say, "Are you left-brained or right-brained?" And my stock answer for that is, "I'm middle-brained." And this one time, this lady just walked away, "Middle brain, I've never heard of it, never heard of it." I'm sure she's still hunting in the psych books for it.
That's great. Well, let's start back in Iowa with when you were growing up in Iowa. When did you, I know that you had a musical family and everything, and probably there was a lot of music at family get-togethers, but when did you first get an interest in performing for the public?
Oh, when I was about 9. And started by entertaining the family and doing impersonations and impressions of people that you would see on radio or TV, imitating their voices, Jimmy Durante and "How are you, Brad, my boy?" W.C. Fields, "I'm a little chickadee, how's the piano?"
That's right. That's one of our symbols here on the New Variety Arts show is W.C. because he started as a juggler, you know.
Oh, I know he did.
And he was very adept, I think, at acrobatics and other things, and then eventually got to be known as a comedian.
So anyway, just then I continued performing in school, at school programs, and the usual route.
Well, were you the entire marching band at your?
Yes, we were a very small high school. I was the one-man marching band. And you should have seen my halftime show.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, now I understand you went from Iowa to Nebraska. When did that happen, and what led you to Nebraska?
Well, when I went to the University of Nebraska, it was because I had an aunt who had graduated from there, and we were actually closer to the University of Nebraska geographically than we were to the University of Iowa, where I was raised.
Okay.
And I had a couple of other friends who were going there, so I was rushed.
Now, what did you major in music in college?
I majored in music, and but I probably learned a lot more about music and, of course, about show business from being on the road with the various bands.
Right.
And then we used to be backing these acts when we'd play for county fairs or conventions, and I'd be sitting there making a little bit of money in the saxophone section. I thought, well, I could do an act like that. So then that's when I put the act together, about 1964.
Well, before we get into the act, because that's really what we want to talk about, I want to touch on the fact that you were a band teacher at one time. Now, was this before or after you toured, and how long did you teach
Not
band?
really. I was one of these guys in music school that said, "I'll go ahead and I'll get the degree, and that'll be my security and my insurance and make my folks happy." But all the time I was saying, "I'm going to be a professional musician." Now, when I did go to Chicago, I did a lot of substitute teaching in Chicago and then later in St. Louis and also in Los Angeles because
you just couldn't keep a job then.
they need substitute teachers so badly. They probably still do, but at that time they needed them so badly that you could go out and teach any day you wanted to. Or if a quick job came up and the band was leaving town that next morning, you could just go. And
so when you were touring with the bands, then you were able to substitute teach wherever the band was playing?
No, in those towns when we'd come back to town. We'd come back to Chicago or back to L.A.
I got you. Now, all of this is leading up to a meeting of destiny.
Yes.
And I know we've talked about this, but I want you to tell the folks this story. It's fascinating. You know, we've had psychics on the show, and we've had hypnotists, and it gets a little ooh, but you know, this story I've heard, and I believe it. It was a meeting of destiny with a man by the name of Dude Kimball. Would you tell us that story? Yeah.
Well, I have had a lot of psychic experiences myself, and predicting the future and creating things happening in advance, you know. And one of the words we use, I'm a follower of Scientology, and one of the words we use is to make a postulate. That's a positive decision of something that will happen in the future. So this postulate...
Well, it's like positive thinking.
Yeah, so this postulate that I made was that I would meet an old vaudeville entertainer who would more or less turn over his novelty musical instruments to me. Because at this time I was just doing the real instruments, 2 saxophones or 2 trumpets, but I didn't have novelty instruments. And
had you seen acts like that before?
well, I'd heard about a couple of them, but I didn't know if any existed or were still around. But I just made this postulate, this decision, this positive decision that I would find somebody. And about a month or 6 weeks later, I was out of town performing, and I called home, and my wife said, "You've had a call from an old vaudeville entertainer who wants to turn his act over to you." And I didn't publicize this. I didn't advertise or anything, you see. It just happened. So when I got back to town, I called him up. He was staying at the Westward Ho Hotel.
Here in town?
Here in Phoenix. He had come to Phoenix to die, actually. He was very ill. He was 84 years old. And the climate was nice, and he just came here from Las Vegas. And
well, how long ago was this? What year
this was about 10, 11 years ago now. About 11 years.
About the time I met you.
Just about that
Close
time.
to that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I called him up, and he said, I wanted to turn over my act to somebody, and I was sitting here in my hotel room, and I got pictures of you playing 2 saxophones and 2 trumpets, and he said, so I called the Musicians Union, and I described you to the Musicians Union, to the business agent, and they said, well, you're talking about Lynn Roberts. And he said, okay, then what's his phone number? So when I went down to the hotel to see him, he had the chain on the door, and he kind of peeked out, and he says, yeah, that's the face I saw, you can come in. And dude had a whole life of being a clairvoyant and having many experiences like this, so I was very excited about it, and we became very good friends. And he turned over his hat, basically, on his vaudeville act to me.
Now, I understand that he was with the Olsen and Johnson show.
Yeah.
Some of our younger viewers are not going to remember Olsen and Johnson, but they were very big vaudeville performers. They had their own review. They also did some movies, I believe, too. Is that right? And tell us about this act that Dude Kimball did.
Well, he called himself the musical Admiral in the Olsen and Johnson show. This was on Broadway in New York for about a year, somewhere in the late 30s or early 40s. And they had this big ship, and the Admiral would step off the ship, and then something happened, and the ship would sink. But I have that same uniform that he wore, including the sword that has 4 musical instruments built into it, and he would take the telescope out of his hat and play the telescope. And
everything old is new again.
That's
isn't that right? So there's an act that's virtually timeless.
And he was seen on Ed Sullivan about 7 or 8 times. He'd made several movies. I believe it was the Durango Kids series. He was one of the sidekicks in that film.
Well, let's talk about you now.
Okay.
Now you've met Dude Kimball. He's given you the act. Did he instruct you in the? Did he tutor you in the use of these instruments?
Oh, very carefully, just like you were studying a science. And I learned a lot about show business from him. A lot of the techniques and timing. And he would show me how the instruments were actually built, because he had engineered all these things.
Well, in case you had to repair them. Or...
That's right. Well, I actually had to rebuild a lot of them because some of his had completely self-destructed over the years.
Well, that's what time does. How long? Excuse me. How long did it take you to master the various instruments that he provided to you?
Well, it's an interesting thing about a novelty instrument. You make that instrument to do one thing. It's not like a saxophone or a trumpet or a piano where you could play any composition. You build that novelty instrument to play just one song. In other words, if a song had 7 notes or 6 notes in the song, that's all you would need to build into the instrument. You wouldn't need to have the full musical range.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I wanted to move on because we have some more film that we want to take a look at, and I just want to set this up for a minute, okay, what we're going to see. Then when we come back from that, we're going to have you play some stuff on some of these instruments that you've brought along today, and Mr. Bill Swayze, our musical director, is going to accompany you on that.
Yeah,
and I can't wait. I'm very excited about that. Let's talk about basically where you're finding the most opportunity to work this act now is, I would assume, like corporate shows and review shows, and I know you just did a show at the Sun Dome.
Right. That was a nostalgia show called Concert in the Sky with Teddy Phillips and Al Trace. Was a fine show. I use the instruments a lot by doing a show in conjunction with my band, because I do have a dance band.
Oh, I see.
We play a lot of
so that's kind of a break on that.
Right.
But I know you've done cruises and you've done television. Let's talk about the clips. The first one is, I believe, from the John Davidson show. Is that right? When
Could
you were...
be. I don't exactly recall. I guess we'll have to say. I think it is the John Davidson show. I was on there a couple of times.
We don't have a clip, but you were also on the Gong show. Is that right?
Oh, I was on the Gong show twice, and I have the trophies to prove it.
Okay. And then, of course, your most recent television exposure nationally was America's Funniest People. I understand not only the clip that we saw, but they've come back and filmed you again.
Yeah,
Is that right?
we've done some other spots for them.
Well, look for that, folks. And right now, you can watch the TV. Don't tune away, because we're going to show you some film clips of Lynn Roberts in action. Here we go.
Would you welcome Lynn Roberts? He's unique.
Here's my favorite of all the instruments. You see, before I got into show business, I was a plumber, and I had a band, and plumbers have a lot of time on their hands, and so I used to practice this. I'll never forget one time, though, I got on a bus with this thing. I was very curious. The guy next to me put a package overhead. We're sitting there thinking that this thing started to drip. Reached out and caught a few drops. I looked at him and I says, "Pickles?" He says, "No, puppies." Take the plunge. It certainly isn't.
What could I do with you? This is an amazing act, Lynn
Well,
Roberts.
I understand you play a little banjo.
Yes, I do.
Well, I happen to have a little banjo right here.
These are the jokes, folks. No, I play a big banjo.
You play
actually.
get your big banjo.
Can I use your banjo here?
Sure.
All right. What are we going to do together? What are you going to do it on?
Well, I'm going to play it on the old fire extinguisher.
You can't play that thing.
Why, of course, it's a little hard.
Is that a B flat or
No,
a concert?
it's an F.
It's an F.
It's an F fire extinguisher.
F fire extinguisher.
And we're going to have a hot time in the old town tonight.
That's why you brought the fire extinguisher.
did I show you my sword? I'd like to play a beautiful song that's been sweeping the country, and strangely enough, the country's been sweeping it right back. Music. This is sharp.
Hey, that was Lynn Roberts doing what he does best, musical comedy, and those were some clips, and we actually got to see that suit you were talking about from the Olsen and Johnson
That's the
show.
musical Admiral. Right
Yeah,
there.
now we were out playing golf the other day, and you
Yes,
did a dirty
yes.
trick to me.
Yes, I know it.
Why don't you tell them what happened?
Oh, you mean when I sneaked up behind you?
That's right.
Brad was just getting ready to putt, and he had an easy putt to make, and he was just ready to tap the ball in the hole, and I was getting a little jealous, so I just put my club on my shoulder, walked up behind him, and did this.
It scared 10 strokes off my game.
That's right.
Yeah.
But a little later, when I did something good, you were very nice. You were standing back, and I got so excited, I made a hole in one.
That's right.
I turned the club around.
Oh, Lynn Roberts, you're a lot of fun on a golf course.
Here, Bill,
but,
take that club. Would you-
I know that one of your heroes was Benny Goodman.
Oh, Benny Goodman, of
Yeah,
course.
and were you going to play the licorice stick for us?
Well, it's either the licorice stick or the fish.
Oh, I think this probably Benny Goodman is spinning in his grave about now.
Well, I don't play too much on this, mainly scales. Yes. And if it doesn't sound too good, it's because you can't tune a fish.
Stay tuned, folks. It gets worse. Okay.
You probably remember this song.
Hey, I think Liberace
Bill,
made,
have a fish.
Liberace made an entire career out of that song.
Yes.
There it is. There's
Here it
the
is.
licorice
Here's
stick.
my old licorice stick. And, you know, I'd like to sort of show you what happened the first time I auditioned for band when I was about in the 7th grade.
Oh, yeah, we talked about
Yeah,
this.
and I went in to see the band director. And coming from the Midwest, you know, we didn't get too sophisticated. I auditioned with a polka. Would you help me on with this, Bill?
Thanks.
What was that?
Well, this is just what I said to my band director. I said, just a minute here. There's something wrong. Oh, I think that might be cracked or something. You want to pull that?
Well, I'll look at it, too.
So he was nice enough. He let me do another try.
Oh, I like it. The Pennsylvania polka.
Big flock of them flew over that one, didn't they, boy?
I think so. You see them turtles?
Just a minute here. Wait a minute. Oh, Bill, you'd like this. Gotta see what's in there.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, he was so nice, he let me have a third try with the
I'm getting
clarinet.
clips from public access in Tucson. Okay,
Oh,
go
I
ahead.
think that's what it was. I thought it looked familiar. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Wait, look. This part, there's something wrong, but it's kind of like it was with
No,
Johnny
wait,
Cash.
wait.
Yes,
There's no
yes.
way you can play just the...
Yeah, just like that song Johnny Cash wrote, Brad. One piece at a time. Give me an F, would you? Really beautiful. I think we got it.
Lynn. That's great. Well, we woke everybody up in the
Yes,
studio.
yes,
That's for sure. I think we have a little extra time.
Oh,
we'll get it later.
I thought it was a clarinet.
A little extra time. I see you got some other interesting things here.
Oh,
You
we've got
something else we can
We've
do?
got some great things here. Let's see.
I'll put these away.
Well, of course, we have the spring. You see.
Oh, really?
Yes, I used to have 4 of these, and we used to play spring quartets.
Oh, now stop.
This is a very nervous number, though.
Oh, it is.
But I
well,
like-
that's perfect for me.
Yeah, I'd like to play a beautiful song for you.
Okay.
It's entitled, I Took My Girl for a Canoe Ride. When she wouldn't kiss me, I had to paddle her back.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
We could turn this place into a
And
parking
if you
lot
like
for a
that,
line.
I have an encore. She used to be a sailor's sweetheart, but now she's an officer's mess.
Well played.
All right, this is in F, Bill.
I want you to hear
This one
this.
right
Here we go.
I like the way the veins pop out on his forehead when he plays this number. It's the story of my life, Lynn. Ladies and gentlemen, Lynn Roberts, my buddy. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Brad.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we mean by the new variety arts, from the old to the new, and we're just having a ball. We hope you'll come back next week and join us again. Remember, support variety arts in your community. Bye-bye.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you,
That was
boys.
a wonderful show.
That was great. Thanks.